Welcome to this week's edition of the Weekly Travel Alert. I'm Steve Glenn.
And I'm Paul Glenn.
Paul, today we have some amazing information. We've done some analysis, and I think our listeners were going to be shocked.
Okay.
They're going to be shocked because this doesn't make any sense, does it?
As we've dug into this, the numbers have just gotten so big in regards to certain aspects of what it takes to put on an event that, there are ways that you can do it, make it a grander event, and have something that's going to be much more memorable.
Hey, make sure you subscribe to our channel and like it and all those things in the corner. And we get to do this every week. The Weekly Travel Alert podcast comes out every Tuesday, and we also launch the Weekly Travel Alert every Tuesday at 10:30 a.m. to 100,000 subscribers. Paul, you also have a publication.
Yeah, on Friday I've got the Travel Weekend Review that goes out, which is pretty much just me going through, picking and choosing the top travel-related articles that I see in the media through the week, so that I think will be relevant to people that are interested in travel.
You know, it's funny. I research all these travels all day and night. I sit in bed at night and scroll through articles and read about travel. It's fun.
Yeah.
I enjoy it, but I still read yours every Friday because it's actually kind of a synopsis of like the top 5 articles, I feel.
Yeah, I try to make it so that it's the relevant stuff, because there is so much about travel that you could read it all day, you can research it all day, and it's like, what really matters?
Yeah. So I really enjoyed that. Also, you can go to executivetravel.com and subscribe to these. We also have a Travel News Now publication, Paul, that comes out green, yellow, red. Tell us what that does.
Yeah, so when there are events that are happening, whether it be weather, whether it be some of the technologies that we've got going on, or any world event that's going to have an impact on travel, we'll send out alerts based on, is this just informational, is this precautionary, or is this something that you need to make sure that you're aware of and that we're actioning on based on the color codes.
And we try not to waste your time with that. We try not to send out, there's stormy weather in
Chicago. That's every other day.
Hey, this is the Weekly Travel Alert. Thanks for joining us. The headline for today reads, Hotel meeting costs are out of control, and alternative international locations can now actually save companies big money.
Mm-hmm.
Paul, this is amazing. What we're seeing is we help a lot of companies with their meetings, their incentives. I know you travel all over with 400 people here and 30 people here and that type of thing all over the country. You got a good job. You get to visit all these cool places.
It's a little more difficult now than it used to be, but I did have a good run of traveling around, wining and dining, and getting wined and dined.
Yeah. So after COVID, we've seen the hotel cost go up in the stratosphere. We've seen not only the room cost, but all the ancillary charges around that. The food costs are crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to justify some of this stuff. And then the meeting services, the meeting room cost, the audio-visual cost will shock you of what they're going to charge you to have audio-visual in your meeting rooms. And they've increased so much that meeting managers are now looking for alternatives.
Mm-hmm.
They're saying, hey, enough is enough. So the second headline of this week's Weekly Travel Alert reads, New research reveals U.S. hotels' exorbitant meeting prices now allow meetings to be held in Italy with savings up to 31%, even when you include airfare, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
This is amazing. It's because when you look at the airfare costs and compare it from Italy to Charlotte, North Carolina, or Atlanta, or LA, or wherever, it's going to be 3x costs. So with that in mind, we did some analysis. We were going to do a meeting in Charlotte, and we were going to do a meeting and compared it in Italy.
Okay.
And we said, how are the numbers? What are the real numbers? So we put together a matrix. And you can save on a meeting of 60 people, $1,135 per person, 31% by holding your meeting in Italy versus Charlotte, North Carolina. Okay, let me give you the numbers. We took the airfare, the hotel property, a 3.5 star, okay, ground transportation, food and beverage, audiovisual, and miscellaneous. To hold it in Charlotte, for 60 people was $3,650.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. To hold it in Italy was $2,515, and that included the airfare to both of those. So let me give you the price difference.
Okay.
Here we go. Airfare to Charlotte was $450.
And that was a low average.
Yeah.
I mean, some of them were looking at 600.
Right. The airfare to Italy was $1,300. So it actually cost $850 more to go to Italy.
For the
fly to
airfare.
Italy.
Yep.
So the comparison right now is Italy's in the hole, right?
And that would be what most people would think. And, as we do look at, over the last 20 years in general, most people, the focus has always been on what's the airfare. Well,
Right.
but as we look at what's happened, especially here the last 5 years, and what the hotel rates and other things that we're going to go through, what they've done, it's the airfare is not the primary thing, as you're just pointing out.
You bet. And then the next thing is for a 5-night meeting, the hotel cost in Charlotte was $1,200, which is pretty reasonable, actually.
3.5-star hotel.
Yeah, $200 a night, roughly. And then the hotel in Italy was $650, which is basically $130 a night. So you saved about $550. You clawed back some of that $850 loss into Italy. The ground transportation was basically an apple to an apple, about $70 versus $67. Then the food and beverage. This is a big area. This has gone crazy in hotels. We saw in Charlotte, the food and beverage cost was $1,340. In Italy, it was $415, saving $925. That's massive.
So that makes up for the difference in the airline ticket.
Yeah.
Just the food and beverage. So everything else is the gravy.
And then you come to the most amazing cost in the U.S. today that are going to shock you. The audiovisual cost per person for 60 people for a 5-day meeting was $590 per person versus $83 in Italy, a difference of $507 per person. So when you add all that up, you've got the cost per person in Charlotte of $36.50 versus the cost in Italy of $25.15, savings of $1,135 per person, including the airfare.
And which one's going to be more memorable? Which one's going to be
You bet.
more exciting for the lead up? Which one's going to be the one that the pictures are going to last longer?
I wanted to also do a breakdown a little bit on the food costs.
Okay.
Because this is where you won't believe this, ladies and gentlemen. The breakfast in the U.S. at these hotels is $60 when you throw all the
Triple
25% add-on service fees
Yep.
and blah, 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 and tax and tip and all that, versus 20 in Italy. The lunch is 80 per person in the U.S. versus 30 in Italy, and the dinners were $120 per person versus 50 in Italy. Basically, you've got this massive amount of over $200 a day for a breakfast, lunch, and dinner in a nice hotel in Charlotte, North Carolina, and you're going to spend about $100 a day in Italy. So that's a big, big difference. And then the audiovisual will blow you away because we saw quotes of $35,000 for a 5-day conference. We actually got a 2-day
I was going to say it was a
conference.
2-day conference.
It was
That had a quote of
$35,000. We couldn't believe it, ladies and gentlemen. That's why we said there's got to be some alternatives.
And I think the thing is the hotels, they've gotten all the pushback on the AV, so now they source all that, so they can say, well, that's a separate company, and so they're able to gouge of sorts because it's a separate company that's doing all those pieces, and they have control because ultimately many of those have contracts to where they can't bring in third parties. So they're the only option.
Exclusive.
Yep, they're the exclusive option with those properties. So they get you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, think about it. You might be paying more for your audiovisual than your room costs.
For sure, you're going to be between your food and beverage and your audio visual.
Yeah.
You're going to pay more for that than you are. That's why the meat inside the contract. That's the thing is, as you're doing this, you really got to have somebody that's going to help you walk and talk and think through. Okay, what all do we really want and need? So you get that negotiated up front, because once that contract's signed, everything, you're at the mercy of what you've got in that agreement. And a lot of times people don't think about food and beverage discounts, audiovisual, all those extra pieces that add up. And we kind of learned the hard way last year when we held an event in San Antonio that we were at the mercy, once that contract was signed, of whatever it was that was in that, in regards to the pieces that we didn't think were going to be as impactful as they were.
And now we've got, in addition to the saving the big bucks, I've put together a list of 7 additional benefits of holding a company meeting or incentive in Italy versus the U.S.
Okay.
Ready to go?
Let's do it.
Here we go. Number 1, increased employee engagement and attendance. Italy isn't just another meeting. It's an experience. Not only will your attendees be excited and dream about going, but so will their spouses.
I was just say, a lot of times what they're going to do, even if it is an event, is they'll look at bringing a spouse, and they'll extend on the front or stay late or whatever it may be, and really take advantage of the opportunity, which definitely has a long-term impact.
I view it as going to Charlotte is a chore, going to Italy is an experience and a reward. And especially if you're looking at incentives. If you can do it cheaper in Italy, ladies and gentlemen, you need to be going there. And even a small meeting with spouses, my gosh. And I'm not downplaying Charlotte. We just use Charlotte
it's a domestic
as a domestic
destination. Because, there's a reason why many of our, especially from the Midwest, and when you're dealing with agriculture, the time of year that they can travel is during the winter periods. And so you get a lot of this where the natural direction they go during the winter is going to be Mexico and the Caribbean, because you get the all-inclusives that gets rid of this food and beverage costs, that also many times will include a lot of the AV if you're doing a meeting. But a lot of times to write it off, you've got to have some sort of a meeting, even if it is an incentive trip. But those are little tricks that you got to come up with as well. But it is something where domestically we've just seen that it's gotten to the point that they nickel and dime you on all these pieces of the puzzle.
Very much. Now, the second item I had in my list of 7 things in addition to the price benefits is a lot of meetings are held for team building. And the cool thing is all the cultural activities in Italy just are natural. Cooking classes, vineyard tours, olive oil tastings. Basically, your agenda will write itself, ladies and gentlemen. There's so many cool things to do, and both for the attendees and their spouses, or you can have spouse programs, but most people want to go and experience all this. This is an experience. It's taking a meeting and wrapping it around an experience. And so that's how you build teams. That's how you build trust. And so I had that as the second item on our list of 7.
Okay.
The third item is the culinary experience is at lower cost, but you're going to have people. I know when we take people to our villa, they just love the chef that comes in and does all the Italian dishes and the pasta and the beef and
make it fresh, and you get to be
right
part of the experience.
You're right there.
Experience.
And then the tiramisu and then you're just part of that culinary experience. It's more than just a meal a plate slapped in front of you at a big convention hall. Number 4, unparalleled scenic background. If you've seen a lot of the photos that Ryan Swihart and our company has taken of Italy, you fall in love with the photos, don't you? It's just strikingly beautiful. So if you're looking for perfect beauty.
And to that, then people are going to pull those photos up and show their friends. It's going to bring back memories of what the experience that you provided was. So it goes deeper than just being a meeting.
This is another thing I hadn't listed. Number 5 is a better work-life integration. It's a business meeting, but it also gives you a mental rest. More of the ability to have a meeting in the morning, and then in the afternoon, you're free. You have this to experience Italy. And that's what I like to see with a little longer meeting, those 5-day meetings, that keep an openness to them. You get your business done, but in the afternoon, you have this perfect work-life balance of I did my work, now we're going to have my fun with my family. So great. Number 5. Number 6, you want to impress people. This is a really strong executive and client impressions. Ladies and gentlemen, your clients want to go to Italy too, and so does your team. So, it has the, what would you call it, the wow factor?
Wow factor, yeah.
Yeah, that wow factor. You don't have to explain about Italy. In Charlotte, people might think, what do I do?
What am I going to do?
No,
Yeah.
I'm not getting down on Charlotte. I love Charlotte. But it's a perfect example. If you said, I'm going to Houston, you'd go, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to explain that. In Italy, you already have this image in your brain of what's Italy going to be. Number 7, the last thing I had, this week's Weekly Traveler, reads, flexible venues with old market charm and modern amenities. You can meet in a restored monastery, right? You can see all the history and charm in Montone, where our Hotel Fortinbraccio is, and Villa Destino Italy is. You're seeing a medieval, stone-walled community that you can't even drive through. You have to walk through it. I mean, that's that old world charm, that fascination. You can't find that in the U.S.
No.
It's not here.
No.
So you have all these 7 items that I say add to the ambiance of your meeting, complement your meeting, in addition to saving you money. So if you're looking for your biggest bang for the buck, look at Italy for your next meeting or incentive. Very simple.
Pretty straightforward there with some hard data. So yeah, can't argue. So,
ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on this week's edition of the Weekly Travel Alert, sponsored by Executive Travel. Please visit our website, and Paul, you might tell them how to subscribe.
Please like, subscribe, share, and add any comments or feedback on topics that would be of interest for future episodes. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week.